powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, this is Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Mike and Ryan, we're live at the Gallery Bar, Book, and Games on the campus of Ocean Casino in Atlantic City. Starting to fill up for Eagles and Bucs tonight. And, of course, joining us now to break it all down, InsideTheBirds.com and the Inside the Birds podcast. They'll have the Inside the Birds pregame coming up at 5 o'clock tonight. Geoff Mosher, everybody is in the house. What's going on, Moshe?
Nothing, Mike. Getting excited, ready for Monday night. I got to admit, when the schedule came out in, I don't know, when it comes out in like May now or June, right? I looked at this Week 3 game and I said, what on earth did the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do to merit being on Monday Night Football, especially this early in the season? And lo and behold, the Eagles and Buccaneers are two of just four remaining undefeated teams here. And after tonight, unless there's a tie, there will only be three undefeated teams. So Buccaneers have a chance. They've already proved me wrong, and they have a chance to get out to a really nice early lead in their division. And then the same thing with the Eagles, right? With the Giants, Washington, and Dallas all losing, the Eagles can stand alone in first place tonight in the NFC East if they win. So that makes this a pretty interesting and compelling showdown.
It does, and I guess it got more interesting today. I don't know if where we stand. There was a report out there that says the Eagles are going to go with James Bradberry in the slot tonight. Would you be surprised if that's the way they line things up? Bradberry lined up on Chris Godwin.
No, it would not surprise me. Now, here's the interesting thing, Mike, and I did not see that report, but, obviously James Bradberry in the slot is something I've been speaking to you guys both about since training camp. Noticed that he was cross-training there, and I always felt that his skill set would translate well into the slot. Now, ordinarily, you would look at this matchup and say, well, this is maybe one of those games where you could really use him in the slot because Chris Godwin is a really good slot receiver. And they're not very deep at receiver with Russell Gage out. So if they move Godwin into the slot, the Buccaneers, then they have to play a kid named Trey Palmer, who's okay. He's fast. He's not very good with his hands on the outside, right? So they really have two receiving threats you got to worry about. The thing is, the Bucs haven't been playing Chris Godwin in the slot as much as they have in the past. They have a new offense, new offensive coordinator. They play a lot of two tight ends, which leaves only two receivers on the field. When they play two tight ends, sometimes they play three tight ends. So I would be surprised if James Bradberry was a full-time slot tonight. I would think that he's more a slot in certain packages where you see Godwin moved inside. Otherwise, why would you put James Bradberry inside on their third receiver, who's really their fourth receiver with Russell Gage out?
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess the question moving forward, we kind of talked about that. The matchup tonight kind of merits that, because Godwin is one of the probably tougher matchups in that slot. So is this a full-time thing, or is it just this matchup tonight merits it?
Well, I think, I think that's a matchup thing. And then, again, I think it only merits it if you see Chris Godwin lining up in the slot. So we'll have to see how much the Buccaneers do that. Again, they haven't done that as much this year as they have in the past. So I'm sure the Buccaneers are smart enough to know, hey, if we move Godwin into the slot, they may trail Bradberry there. If we leave Godwin on the outside, they'll keep Bradberry there. So really, let's focus on our number 3 receiver or our tight end, right, Cade Otton. Is there a mismatch that we can cause there, knowing that Bradberry is likely to be on Godwin and that Mike Evans is likely to be covered by Darius Slay?
All right, Geoff Mosher, Inside the Birds podcast, the Inside the Birds pregame show. You can check that out on all their social media platforms. So let's stay on defense real quick while we're over there with Bradberry possibly going in the slot here. Mike Evans, Godwin, they don't run the ball a whole heck of a lot, though. So does the pass game worry you as much as maybe it would, except for the fact that they don't even try to run the ball, this team?
Yeah, I think in the tape I've watched, they've had some funky games, right? They played Minnesota first, and then they beat the Bears in week 2. And there were certain things that both of those teams were doing where they were vulnerable in the backfield, and the Buccaneers took advantage of it. it's just watching the tape. I know it's so different from the Bruce Arians, Byron Leftwich offense. They are definitely more like Seattle's offense, which is where their offensive coordinator Dave Canales came from. He does want to run, and he will put, like I said, 2 and 3 tight ends at the line of scrimmage. I call it the Mayfield protection program. They're clearly trying to create a short passing game, time passing game, rhythm passing game for Mayfield because they don't want him holding on to the ball very long. He gets jittery. When he has the ball in his hand for more than 2 or 3 seconds, it's not where he functions best. So I do think they will try to run. It's hard to run against the Eagles, but the biggest thing I think they'll try to do is put a lot of guys up front to keep the Eagles pass rush and run at bay, and then try to work off of play action and work the short game as much as they can.
Moshe, let's go to the Eagles offensively. Last week we obviously saw pure domination on the ground. That's what was given to the Eagles offensively, and not only did they take it, but as mentioned, dominated it. Where's the opportunity tonight against this Tampa Bay defense?
Well, the big injury sort of to watch is the Carlton Davis toe. He's questionable. Toes are tough for cornerbacks, right? So if he does not play, that leaves them with really Jamel Dean as their number 1 corner, and then a backup at number 2. I think in the slot, they kind of rotate guys. So I would and then knowing that Todd Bowles likes the blitz, that would be a good name for him. I mean, the guy rolls out of bed blitzing. But he'll blitz out of man or zone. It's not always just man-on-man coverage. But either way, if you blitz, you send 5 or more, whether you're playing man or zone behind, there's going to be one-on-ones. There's going to be middle of the field. So I do think this is a game where you can get A.J. Brown on those intermediate routes, catching the ball, trying to turn upfield. And same thing for Dallas Goedert, who has a shockingly number of low targets and catches through 2 games. Quez Watkins is out, so maybe there'll be some run for Zacchaeus there in the slot. But I really do think your intermediary passing game and guys like Goddard and A.J. Brown there can really come up big with some one-on-ones.
Yeah, Goddard is interesting and someone I wanted to ask you about. But I do want to get to the backfield, and we talked a little bit about this earlier. Swift, does he remain the guy? How does Sirianni and the staff manage the backfield tonight, and where is their opportunity? I mean, Tampa's defense, rush defense, I should say, one of the more dominant ones in the league. I think it's 54 rushing yards per game, Mosher. So what do you see there?
Yeah, so I don't even with Kenneth Gainwell back, I don't think you're going to see what you saw in week 1, which was, I believe, Gainwell outsnapped Swift or outcarried him like 14-1 or 15-1, outsnapped him by a large margin. I think it'll be closer to I don't know if it's 50-50, 60-40, 55-45. I'm not good at math, so I can't figure that out anyway. But I will say, to your point, Tampa Bay is very good against the run, and they're good because they play a bare front, which means they'll cover every single gap. There'll be 5 guys on the line of scrimmage, and that's just the start. Could be 6 coming at you by the time you snap the ball. So it's tough to run, it's tough to pass. They put a lot of pressure. The one thing that Kenneth Gainwell, I think, has done fairly decently, not great, but maybe a little bit better than DeAndre Swift and what I've seen so far, is blitz pickup and pass protection. And that might lead to Kenneth Gainwell still being the guy who outsnaps DeAndre Swift, but I think it would be malpractice if they're going to run the ball and DeAndre Swift doesn't carry the ball as much, if not more, than Kenneth Gainwell does, especially coming off that last game.
That'd be interesting. All right, Geoff Mosher, you talked about at the beginning, hey, this is a Bucs team that didn't have a lot of high expectations. They're 2-0. Last year, Brady, but so many injuries. Yeah. They had high expectations last year. So is this team kind of back everywhere else except for the quarterback position, which, Mayfield doesn't get a lot of praise for the job that he does. But is this team everywhere else pretty solid now that they're back to health?
We'll see, Mike. I mean, they definitely needed a new offensive approach, and I see that now. Well, obviously they have a new quarterback, so you have to align your scheme, right, with what your quarterback does best. So, and it makes sense for them with Rachaad White and with their offensive line. Tristan Wirfs a good player, to try to run the ball and be a little bit bigger up in the trenches. Now, the interesting thing is that all 5 of their offensive line starters are different 5 from the year before. Like Wirfs was a right tackle last year. Now he's a left tackle. Robert Hainsey was a right guard. Now he's their center. Cody Mauch, another injury to watch because he popped up on the injury report as questionable with a back. but he's now playing right guard. So they've moved everybody all around, but I don't think they were a terrible team last year, Mike. I think they were, because they did win the division, right, with the losing record. They were just a bad.
Yeah, were they 8-9 last year?
Yeah. Maybe they didn't win the division. Maybe it was New Orleans. I forget who, but they
got in. They won the division.
Yeah,
they played Dallas in the playoffs.
Right. So their defense was good. Remember, they lost Shaq Barrett. He had the Achilles. He's back. They have good defensive personnel. You're talking about Vita Vea, Joel Tryon Shoryinka. I always get the Shoryinka part messed up. He's
strong
a good
effort.
I try my best. Shaq Barrett's good. Devin White is still a pretty good linebacker, even though he's in year 11 or 12 here. And when he plays, Carlton Davis is a good cornerback. So they have good personnel, and they have a very, very good defensive play caller and head coach in Todd Bowles. The only question last year, their offense was eyesore. And I'm not convinced it's a whole lot better, but at least through 2 games, you see their plan. You see their plan is to go big up front, try to establish the run early, or the short passing game. They're trying to do what Dave Canales saw his offenses do while he was working his way up in Seattle under Pete Carroll and under Shane Waldron and under Darrell Bevel and those guys, which was kind of be a more balanced and complete offense, not just heavy pass like last year they were with Tom Brady, or heavy run. They're trying to mix it both.
Yeah. By the way, I know, Moshe, you got to get rolling. You guys got your pregame show getting going here, but no Carlton Davis possibly for Tampa Bay. This could be the week maybe where we finally see the Eagles' pass game get off the ground.
I think the opportunities will be there, even if Carlton Davis plays. Again, whenever you play a team that's going to blitz you and send extra pressure, you're going to have one-on-ones. So you're either going to find them and flourish, right, like they did last year against the Lions, where there were a lot of blitzing in week 1 and a lot of A.J. Brown, or you're going to be looking out over your ear hole because the defense is on top of you. The Eagles are pretty good at blocking it up, but remember, they get 5 to block. If the defense sends 6 or 7, then other people get involved, the running backs, the quarterback being quicker with the release. So that all factors into the equation.
All right, that's all tonight right here on 97.3 ESPN. Geoff Mosher and the Inside the Birds pregame show on their social media platforms. And, of course, tomorrow back here on Football at 4, we'll recap this matchup between the Eagles and the Bucs. Thanks, Moshe.
You got it, guys. Have a great one.